I feel like when I finally got to the point of being like, we are ready to try, kind of meant like, we're ready now to be pregnant. I didn't think it would take 2 years.
I had a dream that night I was pregnant. So I woke up at like 5 a.m., took the test, and it was positive.
This is still just my husband and I, and now it's gonna be my husband and I, and then this amazing baby that's gonna require everything from us, and that really scared me.
Having an expert who knows all of these things and can talk you through these fears was one of the best things I did during pregnancy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julia, the Senior Managing Editor at the Everymom. And I wanted to welcome you all to our Everymom Group Chat, where we have real, honest conversations about motherhood and parenting. In this episode, I'm joined by 3 of my wonderful colleagues, and we are talking about what expecting moms really want to know. We have 2 new moms on the call and 2 expecting moms here to share everything about their experiences, what they've learned, what they wish they knew. As I said, I'm Julia, the Senior Managing Editor at the Everymom. I am expecting. I am almost 27 weeks pregnant with my first baby.
Hello, I'm Kira, Deputy Art Director for both brands, the Everymom and the Everygirl. I have a little boy who's 3 months old. His name is Campbell.
Hello, I am Haley. I'm the Assistant Managing Editor for the Everygirl, and I have a toddler. He just turned 1.
I'm Gary. I'm the Senior Managing Editor of the Everygirl. I am 36 weeks pregnant with my first baby.
Seems like once you hit 30 weeks, those last 10 weeks, there's just so much to do, so much to prepare for with work and personal life. It's getting the nursery ready and your birth plan if you have one. I'd love to hear from you, Kira and Haley, if you like went early or how close to like weeks you were. But some people like start to freak me out by being like, well, you could like have your baby 8 weeks early and like, or 4 weeks early. And I'm like, I need every minute of those 40
Yeah.
to get my life together and get organized.
I saw something the other day that really kicked my ass into high gear. It was a thread where women were sharing when they went into labor. And some of them were like 37 and 1, 37 and 3. And for me, that's next week. So I really started freaking out. I went to my husband and I was like, we need to finish ordering everything. We need to finish setting up the nursery. We need to pack the hospital bags. Like we could go tomorrow. And he was like, I don't think you're gonna, but okay.
I think 37 weeks for me was like, okay, it's fair game now. I told my husband, put your phone on loud. You might have to leave the day, be on high alert. But I ended up getting induced a week early. So I knew a couple of days ahead of time, which was nice because I could do all the things. I was like, all right, I'll get a haircut. I'll get a pedicure. I could kind of plan. But with that said, I could still go early.
It is so stressful. I remember thinking, what if I go at 36 weeks? What if I go at 37? What if I go at 38? You're trying to plan all of the things you have to get done, and there's just never enough time. You're literally never going to be ready. They're just going to come and rock your world, and it's awesome. I was induced a week early. I went into the hospital for high blood pressure, was diagnosed with preeclampsia, and was induced the next day. So 1 week early for me.
So the high blood pressure got you to the hospital, and then I was like, well, it's happening.
Yeah.
You were going to be in that moment.
Yeah. I went to the hospital on a Saturday and they were like, you're going to see your doctor on Monday because they stabilized it. On Monday at the doctor's office, she was like, yeah, we're inducing you right now. You're not going to be working tomorrow, so figure it out. And I was like, oh no, I have so much to do. So I came home after being induced and worked for a little bit. And then I was like, okay, this is it. I can't do anything else. Here we go.
I feel like you had your nursery pretty much set up. Did you feel like you were as ready as you were going to be?
Yeah, I found out pretty late that I was pregnant when I found out that 12 weeks, which is like wild. But I was like, okay, everything has to be done by 20 weeks because what if something happens and what if I have the baby? I just felt really far and behind on everything. And so I pretty much did everything really fast. His nursery wasn't fully finished to my level of finished, which is like literally nothing left to do. When he was born, my sister came and she put some art on the wall and it was full finished. I was like, thank you, because I couldn't relax because that's just how I am.
So we're moving, which is the busy time in general, but we're moving right at the start of my 3rd trimester. I've started buying some things and receiving some baby shower gifts, but I have not, I don't have the room yet to be setting up at all. But anytime I get nervous about the nursery, people are like, you got time. It doesn't need to be perfectly done. The second they're born, you'll be like adding something, tweaking something, buying something you thought you didn't need that you need now. Like, I guess I'm comforted by the fact that she'll probably be in our room in a bassinet for a long time. And the actual nursery, at least from a decor standpoint, can very much like come with time if we need.
I think I'm just in the phase where everything's got to get done. I need to organize the bottles and the bottle washer and all of these things. And I'm just like, if it's not done by the time she gets here, it's never going to get done.
Kira, what you said before about finding out you were pregnant at 12 weeks leads me to a question I wanted to ask everybody. I'd love to go back in time, especially for the new moms, and hear more about how did you know you were ready to possibly become a parent, and any steps you took in trying to conceive and fertility up until finding out you're pregnant, and like what all of that felt like.
My husband and I knew for a long time that we wanted kids. As we got closer to our wedding date, we found out more of our friends were having children. It kind of felt like, wait for us. As soon as we got married, we were like, okay, let's start trying. With that being said, we didn't know how long it was going to take us. I have a history of anorexia, so I lost my period a couple of times for a few years at a time. Leading up to our wedding and knowing that we were trying to conceive, I was paying really close attention to my period app and trying to get a sense for what my body was doing. Not that that could really tell me how well a pregnancy would go, but just to have an idea. It just so happened that right around our wedding time, I was ovulating. We tried, and shocking to myself, him, and everybody in our family, we got pregnant right away, which I feel really, really insanely lucky. I found out I was pregnant at 5 weeks because I was like, these are all my normal period symptoms, but my boobs look really big today. I was like, something very different about what.
Every period symptom also being a pregnancy symptom. It's just like, how do you know?
I had a dream that night I was pregnant. So I woke up at like 5 a.m., took the test, and it was positive.
Else have a dream that you were pregnant before you like actually knew? Because I did too, Haley, which is wild.
Crazy.
I thought that I might be pregnant at 6 weeks because I missed my period. I took a pregnancy test and it was negative. I had a ton of symptoms, like normal period symptoms, but way worse. My husband was like, I think you're pregnant. I'm like, look, I took a test and it was negative. Fast forward 6 more weeks. And I took another test because I was like, this is weird. I've now missed my period quite a few times. Something's going on here. Maybe I have cancer if I'm not pregnant. Like, what's happening? Because, that's not normal. And then it was like positive immediately. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm so far behind. So I panicked and called my gyno and I was like, I need to see you tomorrow. They're like, you're okay. You can wait a week. You'll be fine. I'm like, no, I'm so far behind.
They don't tell you that so many people, even if they find out at 5 weeks, may not get in for their first appointment till 8, 10, 12 weeks. So you really weren't that behind.
I know. It felt very far behind, but it was such a happy surprise. We always knew that we wanted kids. We just didn't think it would be so soon, but it was a huge blessing, and we feel really grateful that it happened for us so easily because that's not the case for a huge majority of couples.
Did you not have any other glaring pregnancy symptoms? You weren't super sick in the first trimester?
I had no morning sickness. It
Oh
literally
my
just
God.
felt, I know. I'm probably jinxing myself if I ever decide to have another kid. We'll see what happens.
So glad immediately next door to my office is a bathroom because I lived there like every 20 minutes. Anything that went down was immediately coming up. My husband had major surgery last year. After that, our doctors were saying after major surgery, your body dedicates resources to healing itself and takes those resources away from things like fertility. We had started trying, but not really trying under the assumption that it might take a little bit of time. So I ended up going off of birth control in like September. I got my IUD out and then I had one period and then I got pregnant the very next cycle. We were super expecting it to take a lot longer than it did based off of what the doctors told us. Obviously, very grateful it didn't, but we were surprised. I had plans for the winter that could no longer happen.
Especially if you weren't feeling well.
I found out very early. I was 4 weeks along because I was just checking my period out, going on vacation where we drink in a spa all week long. On the plane there, we saw I was late. We got a test right when we got to the hotel, and it came back positive. Symptoms started maybe a week later, the very intense morning sickness and things like that. We had bought the upgraded package to have like champagne waiting for us when we got there. My husband got to drink the entire bottle of champagne. I have photos and videos of him a little tipsy after finding out we were pregnant. It's very funny, but I didn't get to partake in any of the celebratory things we had planned there. It was still very nice.
Haley, you said you weren't really sick.
When I say I had like such an easy pregnancy, I loved it so much. People are like, don't tell people that. Like, you don't want to hear that. But I did. I felt good the whole time, to the point where I used to get migraines every month right before my period, and I didn't get them the whole time. Like, it was just like, I wanted to stay pregnant forever. I was like, I feel so good. People are like, no, just like, can you make it sound worse for other people? Because they're going to be mad at you.
I'm glad we have totally different sides of the spectrum on this call because I cannot wait for it to be over.
I was like very ready to meet him, but I didn't feel ready to start a new chapter. I was very much like, okay, this is still just my husband and I, and now it's going to be my husband and I, and then this amazing baby that's going to require everything from us. And that really scared me. But it all worked out because now that I'm on the other side of it, I'm like, why was I so scared? It's awesome.
I have feelings like that too. I'm not as close to the end by any means, so I'm still in the good for now phase. But so much, sometimes I joke to my husband, what if I don't like her, like personality wise? Like, what if the vibes are off? Like, what if she isn't as chill as us and has a really strict schedule? It's funny. It changes your whole world. But I feel like you, Kira, and you, Haley, are both like such good examples of like, yes, I know there are hard moments and it rocks your world, but you seem so happy, so fulfilled, meant to be mothers. It seems like it's enhanced your lives and relationships in a lot of ways.
I love that it looks like that from the outside.
I was trying to think of a way to say that, Haley.
Platform, but everybody always says it is the best and hardest thing you'll ever do. And it really is so humbling, but also it comes with so much joy, but it's the hardest thing in the whole world.
I agree. It is hard, but I don't want to scare you guys because, like Haley said, it is also the best thing. It puts life into perspective. Life is supposed to be hard because that's what makes the good things so much better. It makes you appreciate all of the good. All the crying means that you get to enjoy them when they smile at you once. You're like, yes, I'll take the smile.
I like hearing more of the positives because maybe some people are unrealistic about how hard it is, but I feel like we all know it's hard. It's going to be really challenging. It's also something you know nothing about if it's your first kid. Like, even seeing friends or other close family members go through it when you're in the throes of it and you're learning on the job, it's really hard and super humbling.
I will say that the worst part of pregnancy for me was the sleeping. And a lot of people talk about, oh, when you have a newborn, you never sleep. But I firmly believe that the sleep I got in the newborn phase was better than the sleep I got my entire pregnancy.
Wonderful.
Sleep, you're like half awake the whole time. Everything bothers you. Everything is kind of uncomfortable. When the newborn is sleeping, it's like you're sleeping hard. Those 2 hours you're getting are a good 2 hours. I much preferred newborn sleep. That was my one qualm pregnancy.
It's like there's only so many times I can pee in the middle of the night. Where is it coming from? I'm not drinking more water. I'm so confused.
My husband and I have always wanted kids. In the back of my mind, I always had like, after 30, I'll feel ready. After my 20s, I'll do all the things I want to do. And then at 30, I'll feel like it's time to start trying. So 30 came and went. And we talked about starting to try. I got off of birth control a year and a half into trying is when I contacted my doctor to be like, nothing's happening. We have been trying. I learned so much about my own body, which feels like a crazy thing to say, to really track and be in the weeds about ovulation and the timing of things and all of that. I finally talked to my doctor and she was like, let's do a workup. Let's just like see what's going on. So we went the fertility workup route. I got a call from a nurse once, like after that conversation, to set up the next steps of testing. And she referred to it as the infertility workup. I know that's what it is, but you're the first person to like label me infertile or like fertility challenge. But using that word kind of like took me aback, even though it's so common. We were just at the start of the additional testing, but now we're in the infertility box. At that point, we didn't know if anything was wrong or what challenges. I didn't even feel like we had challenges. It just was like it hadn't happened yet. And I was okay with that, but it was just like, why? So, anyways, we went through infertility testing. There were some more physical tests for me than my husband, but by the time we got the results, it was kind of like nothing is physically wrong with either of you, or there's no barriers to you guys getting pregnant, which was a relief, but it was still not happening and we don't really know why. About a year and a half in, we called a fertility clinic after we had done the initial testing with my gynecologist. We were referred to a fertility clinic and went through that whole route. And 3 IUIs and 1 round of IVF later, we got pregnant. It was quite a journey. I never thought at the start of it, when we were like, let's start trying, that it would take almost 2 years to get pregnant. I'm grateful with, like, of course, how it all worked out. But I feel like when I finally got to the point of being like, we are ready to try, it kind of meant like, we're ready now to be pregnant. And even if it happened right away, I didn't think it would take 2 years. I know that's super common. There's a huge spectrum of timing for a lot of people, but it was weird to be 2 years in and still pursuing this. And I was ready 2 years ago to be pregnant or have a baby 9 months later.
It's really good to point out it's such a spectrum and everyone is so different. Being told you might have challenges might not mean anything, or it might mean everything, or there could be nothing wrong and it could take forever. And you just like literally don't know. You could track everything, you could do everything right, and still like doesn't happen for whatever reason.
I feel like no one talks about that middle ground as much. A lot of people get pregnant right away or within like the first couple cycles of trying, or you hear about the people who struggle for years, maybe pursue fertility treatments and end up where we did. That kind of like, it's been a while, but we're not giving up hope about trying naturally. It has been almost a year. And I felt like no one talked about, which felt a weird place to be at the time, even though now it's so normal. And as we said, it's like spectrum. But I was like, where are my like 9-monthers who are just out here like trying?
It's because we don't talk about that period. I don't walk telling people we're trying for a baby. And then I didn't have this experience, and I can imagine the longer it goes on, it feels a little lonely because it's just not something you talk about a lot.
For anyone else pursuing this fertility journey, it wasn't as overwhelming or scary or hard as I thought it was going to be. Like, it's definitely doable. And I think that like is kind of like anything in life. You have your moments, but you just focus on the next right thing. I imagine that's what new parenthood is like. You finally get in a routine or feel like you know what you're doing, and then they change. Everything is a stage and a phase, and you just do the next thing that you know how to do or are learning how to do.
I think that's the perfect way to put it. Throughout the whole first year, you're so focused on, okay, they should be doing this next, or we should be working on this next. You spend all of this time consumed by the next thing. And I think that's why the first year and all the months go by so fast, because you're so focused on the next milestone. You don't realize that they're 6 months old because you've just been thinking about what's happening. There's no rule book. Everybody's experience is so different. Every baby in pregnancy is so different that you want to talk about it. But at the same time, everybody has a different experience. You can hear so much advice from so many people, but it can be consuming on your own too. You're just trying to do the next right thing. We're trying for number 2 now. We have been trying for 6 months, which is a weird, because I'm like, oh, was the first time we got pregnant just a fluke? We felt so lucky that it happened. And I'm like, oh man, maybe we were just lucky. So now you got the ovulation strips, the basal body thermometer, and it can be so consuming. When do you get to the point where you're like, okay, it's not working? When do you pursue the next step? Or when do you stop trying 1 month at a time, 1 month at a time? And then all of a sudden it's been 2 years, So it's a interesting, like, new second time experience for us, at least. I joke about how much I loved pregnancy, and I'm like, oh no, I'm in for it next time.
I want to hear about like your birth experience. Like, what would you rate like giving birth? And don't scare us too much if it was really a lot.
I went in for a scheduled induction because my son was high risk at night. They had me on like some medicine overnight. And by the morning, it was like 7 a.m. They were like, this isn't working. You're going to be here for 3 days. And I was like, I cannot do this for
Wait, did they really say that?
Yes. They checked me and they were like, yeah, you're not dilated at all. This is going to be a while. And
But
I'm
also,
like,
I'm sure in that moment you were like, I don't want to do this.
I looked up at the clock and I was like, no. The doctor that was in that day, I was told she was very intense. She's not going to let this go on too long. So buckle up. That was at like 7. And at 10, they broke my water. By 11, I was almost fully dilated. I had the typical experience of holding onto the side of the bed and yelling. I'm like that mother in the labor unit you can hear from down the hall.
Did you think you'd be like that, or did you think you'd be like Zen?
I didn't let myself think about labor too much because I knew it would probably scare the crap out of me. I didn't do any research. I didn't want to know what the side effects of the epidurals were. I was like, I'm going to do what I have to do. I was ready and open for a C-section or natural or however it came. Got an epidural. The machine wasn't plugged in. So she was like, it'll kick in 7 minutes. So I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, holding on.
Oh, no.
And it's by 30, 45. I'm like, something is wrong. They probably used the epidural. This is like noon. The nurses were like, okay, you're feeling good. We're going to go take a lunch break. You just enjoy it. And then we'll come back and we'll have a baby. And I was like, okay. By then, I was happy. I was just chilling, listening to music for an hour. By 1 o'clock, they're like, stop laughing. The baby's coming out and the doctor isn't here yet. It was like half a push and he came out.
Glowing recommendation for an epidural.
It's great.
Yeah, that's a hard deal.
I don't know what kind of magic was in it once it worked, but I did have a placenta abruption. So they had to literally dig it out of me. People say like, oh, you delivered the baby and then you delivered the placenta. No, they had to go in there for it, which apologies to the graphics, but that's why I was the most sore.
Crazy that the baby literally just made his way out. Nothing too crazy in terms of your pushing, but the placenta was really in there. Yeah,
Same.
Gary, do you have like birth plan?
Induction date scheduled for a week after my due date. My doctor just has them scheduled and we can either use it or not use it. I really would like to try to go into labor naturally. I'm sure that's what most people would want to do is given the choice. As soon as I get to the hospital, I want every drug and every intervention. I want to not feel anything. So I'm so glad, Haley, that the epidural made you want to last with the nurses because that's what I'm crossing my fingers for.
I loved every second of it. I was sad that I didn't get to just chill longer.
Yeah.
I was so relaxed. He just wanted to come hang out. I could have hung out with that epidural all day. We were listening to music.
I know Kira's birth experience was different, so
I had a similar mentality as Haley. I just really didn't want to know anything about anything. It was like, ignorance is bliss. Women do it every day. Can't be that bad. I'll figure it out in the moment. I think that works for a lot of people. My biggest regret is not learning more. I have super bad anxiety, so I was like, I don't want to know what could go wrong. I don't want to know anything about it. I just want to do it. And then when things started going wrong, I was like, hold on, wait. Now I have to process what's going wrong. I have to process what could happen, what couldn't happen, while also doing the hardest thing your body ever does. If I could go back, I wish that I had thought through some things before just going into it. I just don't want to scare the expecting moms either. So I'm nervous to share.
I also suffer from anxiety, but I need to know everything. Like I need to know exactly what's going to happen. I am not someone who does well in the unexpected see how space. So I feel like I'm almost a little too prepared for all of the different things to the point where like I sometimes will see something and I'll be like, wow, I got to really look out for that. And it's like a thing that has a 0.003% chance of happening. The other thing I wanted to say about anxiety and mental health while pregnant or even postpartum is that because I suffer from pretty bad anxiety, I have been working with a therapist who specializes in pregnancy and postpartum. I started meeting with her in the second trimester. I meet with her weekly. We talk about basically everything, but her specialty is in pregnancy, anxiety, and postpartum symptoms for women. Does anybody
Cool.
else? Yeah. If there's anybody else out there with anxiety and fears surrounding pregnancy and labor, I highly recommend finding some sort of like expert who you can talk to, because there was only so many times I could be like, I could read something and go to my husband and be like, can you believe this could happen to me? And he would be like, it's not likely. But having an expert who knows all of these things and can talk you through these fears was one of the best things I did during pregnancy.
That's so helpful, Gary, that you share that. I heard a lot about postpartum anxiety and depression, but I never heard about the anxiety and depression you have going into birth.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a lot more prominent than after, because it was all of the unknown of, am I going to be okay? Is this baby going to be okay? What's going to happen in this process? I wish that someone had told me, like, take care of yourself before you give the baby. Don't worry so much about after. Postpartum anxiety and depression is such a real thing. If you do experience that, get help, because it is absolutely awful. I didn't, but I know people that have, and it just rocks your world. I hope that if anyone
Yeah.
experiences that, they get help.
I think that's great because I went through this experience and found this expert and have gone through therapy during pregnancy. I already have that system set up for after. As soon as I need somebody, I know exactly who to call. We've already talked about a postpartum plan and have a postpartum follow-up schedule. The mental health side of it, I feel like, is so easy to ignore, but there's resources that can help like set you up for success before you get to the point of needing help and not knowing where to go for it.
That's incredible too, because a lot of people to have it ahead of time, as like established care, because once you have the baby, they give you a stack of paperwork and the majority of it is about postpartum depression and anxiety. I remember that first night thinking it was just going to hit me all at once. I was really worried about it. Thankfully, I didn't, but I did experience a little bit of postpartum depression once I stopped breastfeeding. And I feel like that's something people don't talk about a lot. And that was at 8 months. That came out of nowhere. Thankfully, it only lasted 3 weeks. But I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, I know that there's resources for this, but where do I start? And who do I call? Maybe it'll go away. Just having that, basically, like, you can just have your care already and have them on speed dial and be like, okay, I need help, or like already be talking through the tools you could be using before you even need them is so important.
I do feel like sometimes postpartum anxiety or depression is poised as that, like, it can happen at any second immediately after you give birth, but for you to experience it 8 months in and at a different transition and a huge hormonal change, I imagine, it makes total sense.
I at least was like, oh, I'm out of the woods. Like first month, no problems. And then I did worry about, like, they warn you about weaning off of breastfeeding and how that's a huge hormone drop as well. But I didn't think it would affect that. I was grateful to have, I'm sure I could find my paperwork somewhere for the members left the support groups, but I didn't know that they were like, I should have assumed that there were specific therapists that had that specialty. But that's amazing that you call that out, because I think a lot of people don't.
Should I share my labor story? Oh, man. So I was induced as a medical emergency. So it was kind of stressful to begin with. I got to the hospital. I think I was 2 centimeters dilated when they induced me. They put the balloon in me at the OB office, got to the hospital, and then I was there. I got there at 5 p.m. on a Monday, and I gave birth 5 p.m. on the Tuesday. So 24 hours was the process for me. I pushed for, I believe it was 3 hours. Leading up to the pushing process, I developed an infection with preeclampsia. There's a lot of monitoring of your blood pressure and all those things. My son's levels kept dropping, so they kept reducing my Pitocin to keep him stable. So the whole thing was like this dance of, this is going not the right direction, or, be prepared for C-section, or we might have to do that. To which I was happy with whatever has to happen to keep us both safe. But I did want to try for a vaginal birth just because of the recovery of it, if possible. So all of that leading up, it was time to push. My son had a 99 percentile head my whole pregnancy. We kind of thought, there's no way his head is really that big. You don't have big heads. We don't really know why his head is so big. No one in our families do. Anyways, I am pushing and they are like, this is really not working. You are not doing this correctly. He is going in. He's not coming out. We're going to have to do something else. And I'm like, please just let me stick at it. At this point, the epidural is turned off because it's not helping. It's hindering it and becoming dangerous for both of us because I couldn't really feel anything. So they kept turning it down and down and down, which made the pushing process easier because the pain is there to help your body do what it needs to do. The experience of an epidural was not what I expected because I don't think that I had prepared for what birth entailed. I don't want to scare anyone because some people, I think it just happens really naturally for them and it's an easy process and that's amazing. And I hope that that's every woman's experience. But for me, it was truly like the hardest thing I have ever done. And I don't know if that's his head size or what, but he was resting on my tailbone and getting stuck, pushing his head against it. And so when he came out, half of his head was bruised with a big scab on it. And so then we had immediately after his birth, all these specialists coming in, like, what's wrong with his head? Have you seen that baby's head? Like, we could hear the nurses like,
Gosh.
that baby in that room's got a big head. And we were like, what? What's going on? Like, we don't know why his head's big. And it was very scary. And we just thought there's got to be something wrong with him. That was day one after he was born. Obviously, he's sleeping every 2 hours, whatever. I wake up from the first time I've slept in maybe 48 hours because I had so much anxiety I couldn't sleep. And his head had kind of molded back to what it should be. All babies are born with a massive cone, but his was a massive cone with a bump and a bruise and configurations that weren't normal. And it had completely like healed down to what it should be by the first day. And so the specialists that had been coming and checking on us were like, wow, this is amazing. There was a lot of talk of like, you need to take your son to get an MRI right now. And it was all just very, very, very traumatizing. And I did not allow myself to mentally prepare for if anything didn't go
Yeah.
as planned. And I wish that I had.
I think there's a lot of conversation about what could go wrong with the epidural and labor, but not enough conversation about once the baby comes out, they're doing a lot of checks and they're in they come into your room every 3 hours, 2 hours or whatever, and they're always checking something and you don't know what it is. And if something's wrong, you have no idea what to do. And everything feels like it's the end of the world or it's the biggest thing. And maybe it is and maybe it isn't. With Tanner's high risk, he had really low blood sugar. So they were coming to prick his heel every 3 hours and his temperature was super low. They had him on me for a long time. They were trying to get his temperature up for 2 hours on me. Then we get up to the mothering unit and the nurses are like, oh, so he's eaten, like he's good, everything's good to go. And I'm like, I was supposed to feed him? I don't know what I'm doing. And then they were freaking out about that. And it's like, there's no instruction manual. Nobody talks about that part of it and the anxiety that comes with it, that you have this new responsibility, but really no control over their health. The first couple of days, you can't do anything. It's really stressful.
So, Kira, once you got through your birth experience, what did you feel like postpartum recovery was like? Either the immediate when you were still in the hospital or like after you were home? Did it seem easier than the actual birth?
Yeah, I definitely thought so. Everybody kept saying, you need to sleep, you need to stop, you need to let someone else hold him. I really wish that someone had said, it's okay if you don't want to sleep. It's okay if you just want to hold him. There's no wrong way to do postpartum. I feel like you just have to do what feels right for you. And for me, that was straight adrenaline. I just wanted to do everything. I wanted to hold him. I wanted to figure everything out. I wanted to change all his diapers. And that's probably not the healthiest way, but for me, that's what made me feel like, okay, I'm learning. I'm getting the groove of this. We have been together for 9 months. No one else has been with him. I wanted it to stay that way.
I mean, and
Yeah.
it's everyone's coming from a place of caring, especially about you in that phase, which is lovely. But it also, yeah, it's like you never want to feel like you're doing something wrong. And for you in that
Yeah.
moment, you're probably like, let me just do what I want to do. This is okay as well.
My husband was a huge help as well, and whenever I was like, "I want a break," he was like, "Please, let me help you." But I also think genetically, for me at least, I felt like I had more of an instinct into what to do than he did. I know that's not the case for every relationship dynamic, but it was helpful when I had finally heard someone say, "This is how you're supposed to feel. You're supposed to feel like you know what to do. And it's okay to feel like he wants food or he wants his diaper changed," instead of like, I know he wants that, but I can't tell whoever's watching him that that's what he wants. And I wish that I had heard that more. Like, just listen to your instincts, because for at least I felt like this is what I meant to do and I know how to do it already. So I just have to do it.
What I wish more people had said to me at the beginning, or what I want expecting moms to know, is that pregnancy is very hard. It's okay if it's not this magical, wonderful honeymoon period you see so often, especially on social media. It's okay to not like it. It's okay to cry about it. It's okay to not feel good. It doesn't make you not grateful for the experience. It doesn't make you not grateful or excited to meet your baby.
After a full year, I can say it's under my belt. It's hard to believe. A lot of people say you won't feel like yourself again until after a year. You'll feel back to your body. You'll feel like you kind of have a groove going on. I do feel like that's true. But in the beginning, I wanted someone to say to me, you will feel like yourself again one day. Before then, you'll cry a lot. And you might wonder what the heck you got yourself into. And that is okay. If your instincts don't kick in right away, that is okay. Stop breastfeeding if you hate it. It's okay if you don't feel instantly bonded. There's all of these things you assume you'll feel right away. And if you don't, that's okay. I had a lot of guilt for not instantly feeling those motherly instincts or not instantly loving it. But now I've realized that it's okay that I wasn't in love with the newborn phase, because the toddler phase is so much fun. You get your groove eventually, but it might not be as soon as you expect it or exactly the way you want it to be.
I think the biggest thing I wish someone had told me was that, and this could go for anything in life, is that two things can be true at once. You can really love being a mom, but you can also find it really hard. You're really sad and cry about how confused you are and your hormones and all of that. But you can also be super happy that you have this baby and be really scared. So I feel like I wish that I had just heard, like, there's a lot that comes with postpartum, and it's like a roller coaster. You could be crying 5 minutes ago, and then now you're happy, or your baby's crying 5 minutes ago, and now they're happy, and it's just a lot, and you're not alone.
Something you said, Gary, really resonated with me and was similar to what I was going to say. I think for me in my fertility journey, comparison was so hard for me. I mean, I've kind of struggled with that in my life in general. Social media certainly doesn't help. But when it comes to, like, if you want to start a family, if you're thinking about trying, if you're having conversations with your partner, even thinking about doing it solo, wanting something so badly and then it not going the way you thought is hard to wrestle with emotionally, mentally. For me, my fertility journey and the end result being IVF and that being successful, I'm so endlessly grateful. But I wish I would have been less hard on myself during the process of, why isn't this going the way I thought it would? Why is it easier for some people and not others? Why is it way harder for other people than even pursuing IVF was for us in that whole process? I mean, it's such a spectrum. Fertility is a spectrum, pregnancy is a spectrum, motherhood is an endless spectrum of emotions and feelings of comparison and, feeling like you're not good enough one moment or you're so lucky and just happy to be experiencing whatever it is in other moments. So just not being so hard on yourself and kind of trusting the process and whatever that means for you at any stage. And that's hard to hear. Like, I hated people saying to me, like, oh, it'll just happen and everything's meant to be and everyone's timeline is different. It's hard to hear that in the moment. I feel like now, being farther in the process and being pregnant, I do look back on it feeling that way a little bit, but just focus on yourself and your own journey. However you're feeling is valid. One day you'll be looking at whatever hard moments you're going through and be grateful for that time. I feel like the four of us as a group, it's proof that even at different phases, there's so much joy, happiness, and good stuff in the end.
I feel like it really kind of all boils down to like everything we said is like, there's no right or wrong way to do any of this. There's a lot of guilt, questions, and comparison happening everywhere. But if you know that everything you're doing is right, there's no wrong way. And it's okay. Anything you do is okay. You can do this however you want. It's your body. It's your baby. Whatever you do is the right thing for you.
Well, thank you everyone for sharing so much. This
Yeah.
conversation was fulfilling and
I feel like we can
so
keep
fun.
going so easily.
Yeah, there's so much more for us to cover in this realm. And speaking of that, we are going to have many more Everymom Group Chat episodes coming out, both for topics like we're covering today, but also for toddler parents, littler kids, bigger kids. The full spectrum of motherhood with our Everymom team is being covered in these Everymom Group Chat episodes. We hope that they're fun to listen to and relatable. If you are looking for even more information on all things motherhood, theeverymom.com and our Instagram at theeverymom has tons of resources from helpful articles to shareable content on Instagram. For all the expecting moms, we have registry checklists, product recommendations, and baby names, and all sorts of pregnancy, postpartum, trying to conceive content on theeverymom.com. Thanks, everybody, for participating and listening.